Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our special tribute to legendary University of Arizona basketball coach Lute Olson. Over the next 40 minutes, we'll be paying homage to the man that not only put Arizona basketball on the map, but the city of Tucson. We'll take an in-depth look at the man himself. We'll walk you through the more than 3 decades he influenced the game of basketball, his dedicated work bringing a national championship to Tucson and transforming the program into a perennial powerhouse. And lastly, we'll go beyond the game of basketball to the impact he had on the city of Tucson and all of southern Arizona. A lasting legacy that will echo throughout the community for generations to come. But first, we take you to McHale Center, where devoted fans packed the stands today to celebrate a man they love. We have team coverage of today's tribute. Paul Cicala will take us inside McHale Center to Lute and Bobby Olson Court for a look at the touching tribute for Coach O. Mark Wingura spoke with the die-hard fans who were finally given the opportunity to say their goodbyes to the Tucson icon. And David Kelly takes us up close and personal with former U of A players who all had a close connection with Coach Olson. We begin with News 4 Tucson Sports Director Paul Cicala from McHale Center with more on the tribute and celebration of Lute Olson's life. Paul.
It was certainly a somber atmosphere here in McHale Center as hundreds of people turned out for the tribute to the life of Coach Lute Olson, but not as somber as it may have been had this memorial taken place over 1 year ago at the time of Coach Lute Olson's death during the COVID-19 pandemic when it was at its worst. Most have been able to come to grips with the loss. So, as mentioned, it was more of a celebration of Lute Olson's life today. There weren't many tears, but there were certainly lots of smiles. Jason Terry was one of the players who took the mic to fondly remember Coach Lute Olson and all he did for him and the U of A.
I was very blessed and fortunate to play for Coach Olson. He gave me an opportunity when nobody else would.
Other featured speakers included the voice of the Wildcats, Brian Jeffries, AD Dave Hickey, widow Kelly Olson, former AD Sed Dempsey, NBA great and Warriors coach Steve Kerr.
To come back to Tucson to see all the guys, and there's just this automatic connection.
Another NBA champ, Andre Iguodala.
Coach Olson lives on forever.
Friend Paul Whiteman, grandson and coach Matt Rossi, and former assistant coach Jim Rosborough, who exchanged fun stories about Lute with laughs and smiles, to also getting choked up himself.
He owed me a ton to me, you know that. And this was the guy that gave us all a chance. The best. Thanks very much.
Fittingly, all the former players took a pic on stage at the very end in their last tribute to Coach O. As you saw, lots of former University of Arizona basketball players under Coach Lute Olson were here at McHale Center in a reunion of sorts and paying tribute to his life. But one notable person that was not here is Sean Elliott, the Tucson native, the former Choya High School basketball standout, and frankly, he hasn't been back to Tucson much for many of these reunions since leaving many years ago. I am being told, though, that perhaps COVID-19 reasons and other health issues may have prevented Sean Elliott, the best player of all time here in Tucson and one of the best ever at the U of A, from making it to this memorial. Reporting from the Lute Olson Memorial here at McHale Center, Paul Cicala, News 4, Tucson.
As you can see, today's tribute brought a number of people together, including some diehard Wildcat basketball fans. News 4 Tucson's Mark Wingura joins us now with more on how fans are celebrating Coach O's life.
After more than 2 decades leading the men's basketball team here at the University of Arizona, it's no surprise that hundreds of fans came out to celebrate the life and legacy of Lute Olson.
Fans filed into McHale Center today to pay their respects to the late Lute Olson. Some alumni even traveled across the country to be here today because of what Coach O meant to them.
Came out here and remember sitting in the stands with my homework on Thursday nights. It cost me $1 to get in, and I watched after, Coach Olson took over in '83. I watched, Arizona basketball be put on the maps.
With 4 Final Four appearances and an NCAA title on his resume, Coach O did just that. Some fans in attendance knew Coach Olson personally, making today's tribute that much more meaningful.
the common person could go up and congratulate Coach. He never tired of being appreciated and was always kind and gentle and human and wildly intelligent and elegant. So he's a rare human being, so we have to thank him for that.
Coach Olson even inspired traditions long after his coaching days were over. One fan in particular wears shoes he signed only during games at McHale Center.
I don't think we need luck, but they always felt good to wear, and I was always glad to see him when I had him on because he was always so generous to me and so kind and so open, and I'm a huge fan.
From the most seasoned fans to the youngest, Coach O has inspired generations of people that will always bear down.
More than 10 years after his final year as head coach of the University of Arizona men's basketball team, Coach Lute Olson still has a very big impact on the program and the city of Tucson. From the University of Arizona, I'm Mark Mangura, News 4 Tucson.
Several former players flew into Tucson for today's tribute to Coach O. News 4 Tucson sports anchor David Kelly has more on that.
Yeah, Sean, what a turnout it was from the men who wore the uniform during the 24-year run of Lute Olson here at the University of Arizona. And here's my favorite picture from the weekend. All of the guys at Wildcat basketball practice on Saturday, the memories, they run deep.
The first time we heard Coach O bellow our names, JT, AJ, it just resonated with you.
Everybody here was impacted by Coach so dramatically. My whole professional career in basketball is really thanks to Coach Olson.
Papa Lute was a masterful coach in anything and everything. When we'd be sitting watching the Summer Olympics, you would think he was an expert in every sport. You name it. Swimming, gymnastics, ballroom dancing, javelin, he was on it.
And how about that famed no swearing policy we heard that Lute Olson employed?
Coach O was a throwback to where there was fear. I was afraid of Coach most of the time. If he called you to his office, you know, you were scared to go in there.
How many times did you break his no swearing rule?
I probably broke it more than I can count.
My boss and our head coach, Steve Kerr, does well with that for the most part, but he slips once in a while. He kind of snaps.
Well, unfortunately, that was one lesson I didn't learn from him.
And by far my favorite moment of the ceremony was when legendary assistant coach Jim Rawlsborough made all the players and managers stand up, get in that defensive stance, and do that defensive shuffle.
Push, 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 push.
I didn't think I'd be down in a defensive stance. You know, Coach Roz had us in a defensive stance.
That's how you teach and win national championships. Right next to Lute Olson's signature photo here at McHale Center, I'm David Kelly, News 4, Tucson.
We didn't care if he was a good basketball coach. It was nice. But what we really cared about was a good husband to my mom, who deserved it, and a good father to us.
And later, we'll tell you about a film that is currently in production about the man of the hour, Lute Olson. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Before becoming the winningest coach in University of Arizona basketball history, Lute was born in Mayville, North Dakota back in 1934. He played high school basketball before attending Augsburg University in Minneapolis. Lute met then Bobby Russell at church. The two were inseparable, and they tied the knot soon after. He graduated from Augsburg with a double major in history and physical education and went on to teach and coach high school basketball. Then in 1969, he landed in California to coach at Long Beach City College, followed by stints at Long Beach State and the University of Iowa, before making his final stop right here in Tucson. Tragically, Bobby Olson passed from cancer in 2001. Lute had some trials and tribulations after Bobby's death, but eventually found comfort and love in Kelly Olson, who Lute married in 2010. She would be with him during the final chapter of his life. News 4 Tucson sports director Paul Cicala spoke exclusively with the family and has the story.
Lute Olson spent the last 12 years of his life alongside of his wife, Kelly Olson, and his new extended family here in the Old Pueblo, and continue to remain active in the community in all parts of Tucson. One thing's for sure, it was a family that loved Lute and was there for him till the very end.
We're a year out, and I would say that it's somewhat easier, but not a lot easier. I miss him every day.
An inseparable couple, Lute and Kelly Olson. Olson spent some of his most successful years while coaching at the U of A, but in retirement, Lute Olson made it all about him and his new family, Kelly and his stepsons, Jake and Dylan.
Lute used to reference them as the fairy tale years because we just kind of lived the dream. I mean, he was retired, and he said that that was the best time of his life. You know, coaching was fun and all the wonderful things that he did during those years, but along with that goes stress. So our years were stress-free.
Olson's stepson Dylan said he wasn't even a basketball fan when he first met Coach Olson at the age of 15, as his mother began dating Lute. But that didn't affect their bond in any way.
I think it was easier to get close to him in a father-son way. We didn't care if he was a good basketball coach. It was nice, but what we really cared about was a good husband to my mom, who deserved it, and a good father to us.
A family man who, just like in basketball with the Wildcats, went all in with his new household. It's no secret how much Lute enjoyed his new life away from coaching, not only with his immediate family, but his extended Tucson family of beloved fans. And that meant continuing to stay involved through volunteer efforts and helping those less fortunate, something both Kelly and Lute took tremendous pride in.
I taught kindergarten for a long time, and Lute's raised hundreds of young men through the basketball program, and so kids are really important to us, and giving back to the community is important.
I personally had countless opportunities to witness Coach Olson's community involvement firsthand. Here's what he told me after a big fundraiser at the Boys and Girls Club of Tucson.
These kids need help. It's a tough environment now to grow up in, and we need to do all we can to help them.
Dylan opened up with me about one of the emotional last moments he shared with Papa Lute as he lay in bed.
And I remember pulling open the curtains to the town below, and he just looked out and said, "Beautiful." There's one word he just said, it was beautiful. And I was like, what a great send-off for everything that he's done for the city, everything that the city did for him. It was like the premier special moment. If people can hear that and know that he still thought highly of the city that he loved throughout his entire career, throughout his entire life, I think that's a good thing.
Meanwhile, Lute's legacy lives on.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big broken part in there.
If you could tell Coach Lute Olson something right now, what would you tell him right now?
Baby, I still love you so much. That will never change. Thank you for the best years of my life and our fairy tale together.
On a personal note, I am one of those Tucson natives who grew up idolizing Lute Olson as a young kid, looking up to him, seeing him inherit one of the worst programs of all time in U of A history, to taking that team to an NCAA tournament a year later, to countless other NCAA tournaments, Final Fours, and of course that national championship, to over the years being able to reconnect with him through community involvement. Of course, Lute Olson continued that till the very, very end. Tucson loved Lute, but Lute, I believe, loved Tucson even more. And I am proud to say that Coach Lute Olson definitely and profoundly had a big impact on my life as well. Reporting from the Lute Olson Memorial here at McKell Center, Paul Cicala, News 4, Tucson.
And we will have more on Lute's impact on the Tucson community a little later on in the program. Still to come, a play-by-play of all of Lute Olson's victories that led him to become one of the most accomplished and decorated coaches in the nation.
Milestone victory for Arizona. Simon Says championship.
Arizona 84, Kentucky 79, the final score. The 1997 national champions, your Arizona Wildcats.
A moment forever etched in our minds. Arizona defeating Kentucky in the 1997 NCAA National Championship. But it wasn't an overnight success story. A lot of work had to be done to reach that thrilling moment. Lute first arrived in Tucson with a mission to save a struggling basketball program and started to prove he could do much more than just bring the team back to life. We all soon realized this man was a force to be reckoned with. News 4 Tucson's David Kelly has more.
Fred Snowden laid the groundwork for successful basketball here at the University of Arizona. And when Robert Luther Olson arrived, he took that groundwork and built a palace. The numbers speak for themselves. 589 victories with the Wildcats, 780 wins overall, 11 Pac-12 championships. Lute Olson was Pac-10 Coach of the Year 7 times. Only one other coach in Pac-10-12 history had a better league winning percentage than Lute. You guessed it, a guy by the name of John Wooden. Olson led U of A to 23 straight NCAA tournament appearances, and in 1997,
there's a milestone victory for Arizona. Simon Says championship. One national championship.
Before he was even retired, Lute Olson was inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. Yes, those were the accolades, but how about some of the games? Like going back and winning at Iowa, the school he had left for Arizona in that fabled 1987-88 season that set the tone for the program's first Final Four run, christened when the Cats beat North Carolina in the Elite Eight up in Seattle. And how about Shaq's visit to Tucson and the Cats exacting revenge for a loss in Baton Rouge a year earlier? There were buzzer beaters.
Simon throws it up at the buzzer. Do you believe in miracles?
And many, many great players, a majority of whom were here at McHale Center today to honor the man who took Arizona basketball to a national level, Robert Luther Olson.
Today, many of those players that Lute led by example took to social media to express their gratitude. Tucson's own Sean Elliott, unfortunately, was unable to attend today's tribute to Lute, but shared the following video on Twitter on Lute's legacy.
He enriched all of our lives for the better. He enriched the community of Tucson, and his legacy is right there before you. It's in his players, his former coaches, it's in you, the fans, his kids, his grandkids, and of course, his beloved Kelly.
Elliott also shared how Lute pushed him on the court to be the best player he could be. U of A alum and Golden State Warriors player Andre Iguodala shared his love for Coach Olson today and his hope for the future. In a statement, he said in part, quote, "It's up to us to continue Coach Olson's legacy. It's up to us to continue to build, help the next stable, the next coaching staff. We will make sure Coach Olson lives on forever," end quote. If you'd like to submit your condolences and share your favorite memories of Lute, we have a page set up on KVOA.com. Just select the News tab and click on Remembering Lute Olson.
As great as he was as a basketball coach, and he was the best, I think there was more of an impact, not just with Tucson, but I think with the entire state. Yeah. Everything got bigger and better when you saw Lute.
The former head of the U of A Athletic Department and business leaders from the community come together to honor and remember Lute Olson's legacy. Find out what they had to say about the Tucson legend's impact on the game and our city. After Lute Olson arrived here in Tucson, it wasn't long before he not only transformed the Arizona basketball program, he changed the city, embracing the community, making it clear everyone was invited to come along for the ride. And what a ride it was. I had the opportunity to sit down with 3 well-known business leaders, Sam Levitz, Jim Horvath, and Casey Ahn, as well as Jim Livengood, the U of A athletic director through the glory years of Wildcat basketball, all who knew Lute Olson well and the impact he had on the city of Tucson. Gentlemen, first I want to start with your first impression when Lute Olson came to Tucson. Jim?
but we were excited. We knew we had a real basketball coach. And as the season progressed and his teams progressed and he started recruiting players, you could see they were going to be, they were going to play hard and they were going to win, and they did.
You know why Lute got here? Actually, Tucson in the United States is nobody know where is Tucson, but Lute got here, and he not just to do with the team, but he connected the team to the University of Arizona, to the Tucson, Arizona. He put the map on Tucson's very exciting sports town.
When did you realize he was much more than just a great basketball coach?
Everything he did with the community. He sponsored so many charity events. What he did with Boys and Girls Clubs. He reached out to everyone, and everyone loved it.
He never said no to anybody. I did a lot of function with him. He just everything yes, never say no.
Sean, I would think the other part of that kind of adds to it, as great as he was as a basketball coach, and he was the best, I think there was more of an impact, not just with Tucson, but I think with the entire state. Yeah. Everything got bigger and better when you saw Lute.
We all see the video in memories of the national championship, Lute in the stadium with the players, but it happened much earlier than that. How did the city change?
Everybody became engaged with Wildcat basketball. And it didn't matter whether you were a basketball fan, it didn't matter if you even knew anything about basketball. You knew that Lute Olson and Bobby meant that, you know, it was Arizona. Yeah. It was the Wildcats.
Is there something that you can call to mind, something about Lute that most people wouldn't know or would be surprised knowing about him?
You know, I really enjoyed the fact that we were at the same golf club. And he would just stop and talk anytime you saw him in the locker room or on the golf course, and he was so genuine and generous with his time, and that's what I really respected about him.
What was the real impact he had on his players?
He made players better people. He made players better young men. It wasn't just about being a better player or about the NBA, and it wasn't just about what happened on that 94-foot court.
If you had an opportunity to say something to Lute, what would you say today?
I'd say, Lute, thanks for all the memories. Rest in peace, and the Levitz family, you're number one in our hearts.
I would just say, again, there's certainly, in terms of how much miss him, and we miss him, but just thank you. Just a huge thank you.
All Tucson peoples really thank you for him, and I think he know that. And I think I really missing him more than anything, and I love him.
I'm really grateful that he decided to come to Tucson and the University of Arizona, and he just did such a fantastic job, and he made it look easy, and it was a lot of hard work, I know. But I'm sure he's just cruising up in heaven and looking down on us. And
this is the basketball town, and keep it that way.
After his retirement in 2008, Coach O stayed busy with the Lute Olson Fantasy Basketball Camp right here in the Old Pueblo. A weekend of hoops that brings together adults from all over the world to descend on Tucson and learn some unforgettable X's and O's from Olson's prized pupils. Players like Bennett Davidson, who was part of the winning team in 1997, and Salim Stoudemire, who became a household name during his time here at Arizona. The camp made its return a few weeks ago after a one-year pause. It was the first one since Coach Olson passed away in August of 2020. It's been nearly a quarter century since the Arizona Wildcats' incredible NCAA championship run in 1997. And now a film on Lute Olson is scheduled to hit screens in just a few months. Wildcat alum, film director, and producer Brett Rapkin was in his freshman year when the U of A went all the way in the tournament. And after all these years of not having a proper film on Lute and his legacy, Rapkin decided to take matters into his own hands, leading a project through his production company, Podium Pictures. Former players are featured in this film, including Steve Kerr, Sean Elliott, Josh Pastner, Reggie Geary, and Jason Terry. Terry is also an executive producer on the film. We spoke with Rapkin, who told us what kind of a film we can all expect to see.
It's going to be a really heartfelt tribute to not only Lute, but his wife, Bobby, who is such an integral part of the program. You know, in interviewing all these different former players and coaches, one thing that always comes up is Bobby Olson. Her pancakes were a necessary part of every recruit's trip, was stopping by Lute and Bobby's house to have these pancakes that sound like they were possibly the best pancakes ever made.
A lot to see in this film. The independent film is set to release in March in conjunction with March Madness and the 25th anniversary of the championship. It's coming to life thanks to donations from boosters who knew and loved Lute. As you heard earlier, it has been documented that Lute never swore, which for some is hard to believe, especially during intense game time situations. But that's the kind of example Coach Olson led with. During an interview, Lute Olson said that one of his players told him that he could say more with his eyes than his mouth. Olson didn't believe in swearing because he didn't think you were showing respect for the people you were dealing with. Players understood that responsibility under their coach and never wanted to disappoint him. As you can pretty much tell throughout our tribute to Lute, he was the kind of person that saw something special in just about everyone.
I was very blessed and fortunate to play for Coach Olson. He gave me an opportunity when nobody else would.
But he also had high expectations, which led to a nationally recognized winning program. And then there's Coach O's incredible career. Take a look at this. Let's recap the numbers. He has the 1997 National Championship with the U of A, 5 Final Four appearances, 11 Pacific Conference championships. He's a 7-time Pacific Conference Coach of the Year. And in 2002, the great one was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame. No question, Lute Olson was a true leader in every sense of the word. The passion he carried and conveyed in everything he did is one that will resonate in Tucson and far beyond for generations to come. While he is no longer with us, his presence will forever be alive at Arizona, never forgetting his magic touch on the game, his impact on every one of us here in this community. And of course, that impeccable head of hair. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm Sean Mooney. Have a great night.